As everybody probably has heard, we're in the biggest pilot shortage that we've ever seen, which is extremely exciting for all of you up-and-coming wannabe pilots. I guarantee you, this is going to be a video you're not going to want to miss if you are interested in being a professional pilot. Hi everybody, this is Nathan Roush, the Senior Admissions Advisor for Thrust Flight, and I am super excited today. Today's video is really just going to be more informative and educational than anything else. We're going to talk a little bit about, actually we're going to talk a lot about, our Zero Time to Airline program, how it works, the benefits of it, who it benefits. We're going to dive into just about everything you can imagine. So all we want to do today is just offer some really educational advice, talk a little bit about the industry, and share with you how the airline program actually works. This is going to be casual. I've got a notepad here I'm going to glance at every so often. A lot of people ask me, your airline program, Nathan, is it just for people that are going to the airlines? And the answer is no. We call it ZTA, Zero Time to Airline. So even though it sounds like it's just an airline program, it can serve people that are going to be corporate pilots. It can serve people that are going to be cargo pilots. And we're going to dive into a little bit more about that as well. So this is not just for 18-year-olds that are ready to start their career. This is for people that are 18 to 60 years old. We have people in our program now that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and obviously in their late teens and early mid-20s, all age ranges. The reason that I mention this is because we have a lot of people that want to switch careers. With the airlines now being as competitive as they are, it's really boding well for people in all facets of industry. I mean, I talk to people in law enforcement, IT, business, real estate, you name it. And they are wanting to switch, and they can because it's now affordable. They can afford to make it happen. So what is ZTA? What is Zero Time to Airline? The program itself is basically two parts. There's a training part, and then there's a time building part as a flight instructor. So let me explain the two. When you're in ZTA, and I'm going to refer to it as ZTA during this video, you are essentially entering at a certain level. There are different stages, and I'm going to go into those stages, but you have typically, if you're starting off at zero, you're absolutely fresh, you don't have any flight training experience, you're entering a 9-month flight training program, okay? The flight training program itself lasts for 9 months. Then after that, the idea is to turn around and become a flight instructor. Well, why would you want to turn around and become a flight instructor? Well, there are many benefits to it, but one of the main benefits is because you're going to be building time towards the airlines. You need 1,500 hours in most cases. There's some exceptions to that, but in general, the best way to build time is to become a flight instructor. So in our ZTA program, we take the 9 months, we average the number of hours that an individual flies as a flight instructor, and it's about a 2-year program from start to finish. So 2 years of your life, essentially, from zero, we call it sometimes zero to hero, from zero to get you all the way to that airline job. And that's pretty incredible. That's pretty fast. And that's why airline programs are so popular, is because you're not going to college for 4 years, 5 years, you know, and saddling all this debt while, you know, your friends went off to some fancy flight school like Thrust, and they're already at the airlines for a fraction of what the person that went to college paid. So let's talk about the entry points for the airline program, because there may be some of you out there that already have flight training experience. You can start off at zero. You can start off having your private pilot certificate and us beginning you at the instrument level of training, okay? Or you can have your private and your instrument rating, and we start you off at the commercial level. Everything that's included would be this: private, and that's basically a certificate, and then you get your instrument rating, and then you get commercially certificated. From there, we move on to flight instructor academies. You get CFI, sometimes people call it CFI 1 and CFI 2, basically CFI A. That's your initial flight instructor ticket. Stands for Certified Flight Instructor Airplane. Then after that, you have CFII or CFII, which is Certified Flight Instructor Instrument. That means you'll be able to teach people in instrument conditions, like low visibility conditions, things like that. After that, the last piece of it is you get a multi-engine rating. You obviously have to have a multi-engine rating in order to go and fly for the airlines because, well, they have more than one engine. So with the multi-engine rating, you also get 25 hours of multi-engine time built into our program. I mention that because there are a lot of programs out there that when you're talking about the multi-piece, they try and push these 50, 75, 100-hour multi-engine programs. They're completely unnecessary. The airlines, if you look at their websites under like pilot requirements, almost all of them say 50-hour requirement for multi, and in parentheses, may accept 25. Let me tell you folks, right now in this pilot shortage that we're gonna be in for years to come, they will accept you with 25 hours. So the point being, don't get oversold on multi-time, okay? Again, if you're starting off fresh, no time, no experience, your program's 9 months for the training piece. If you're starting off with a private pilot certificate that you've already achieved, your program starting at the instrument level is going to be a 7-month program. If you have private and instrument, then your program starting at the commercial level is going to be a 5-month program. So why be a CFI? Why be a flight instructor? Are there other jobs out there? Absolutely. There are random jobs like oil and gas companies have people that fly little airplanes and do pipeline inspection. And then there's all kinds of little random gigs that you can get in aviation. But the thing about it is you're not going to fly as consistently and you're probably not going to get paid as well. So get to flight instructor status as quickly as possible and then start flight instructing so you can get paid. I always tell everybody that I talk to, you got to get over the hump. We recognize that flight training is expensive. It's not cheap, right? And so I always tell people, get over the hump, stop paying and start getting paid. And the very best way to do that is to become a flight instructor. Let's talk about applying for our airline program if you're interested. First off, research, 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 and then more research. Read reviews. I tell people all the time, I am perfectly comfortable with somebody going and looking at other flight schools. I happen to know in my heart that thrust flight is the best for lots of different reasons, but I'm not going to put my salesman hat on. I'm just here to educate you. When you're looking at flight schools, you've got to research, folks. There are so many flight schools. They're not created equal. One of the most important things that you can do when you're looking at your potential flight school is visit the flight school. Call them, set up an appointment, and go and tour around the flight school. It's super important to meet the people, get a feeling for the atmosphere, see the airplanes. I tell everybody when they arrive, I say, anybody in a black shirt is going to be leadership, like one of these thrust flight shirts, is either going to be leadership or they're going to be a flight instructor. And anybody wearing a red shirt is going to be one of our airline students, one of our ZTA students. And it kind of allows them the opportunity to identify who's who and what's happening. But I encourage them, listen, if you want to stop somebody and ask questions, whether it's a flight instructor, a manager, a Zero Time to Airline student, whomever, do that. Stop. We're not afraid of the answer that you're going to get because we know what we're providing. But it's important when you're at flight schools, you have the ability to do that. That if you want to pull somebody aside and start asking them, hey, what's your experience like? Are you getting a lot of attention? Do you have to do a bunch of self-study? What are the planes like? Do they have good availability? Am I able to fly? Are you able to fly with your flight instructor as much as you want to? And then get a good, solid, straight answer, because chances are the person that's showing you around has an agenda. So everything's going to sound like rainbows and butterflies, but what you need is the truth. You need an objective opinion and some feedback from somebody that's actually in that program. So don't be shy when you're at flight schools. And if I'm ever touring you around, do the same thing to me, right? I could take my own medicine. You could stop me and say, hey, I want to go talk to that person. Let's go. Because I'm not afraid of the answer that you're going to get. Certainly not at thrust. Don't be pressured. When you're looking at flight schools, don't be pressured, okay? Whether it's a phone call to the flight school, whether it's an email exchange, you're actually in person looking around. If somebody is pushing you to do something, then you probably need to shut it down. Because if all they're trying to do is sell you a program, that probably means that they're not going to care about your flight training and care about you, frankly, the way that they should. I do want to draw a difference here. Every single individual in every department, everybody really has a passion for flying, but moreover, this is a customer service-based flight school, which means we genuinely care about you and your training. All of us love aviation, right? We love flying. We love this sort of aviation family. It's a special family unlike any other. And so that sort of an atmosphere is cultivated, which means we need and want and desire for you to be perfectly settled in your decision to join us. Let's talk about our actual Zero Time to Airline program, how it works, how you get in it, how you get the process started. So this is how it works. We want to keep things simple. Every flight school has a different way of admitting somebody into their program, and most of them are overly complicated, not with thrust flight. So you've filled out a contact form on the website. You and I have made contact with each other via email, phone, text message. I've answered your initial questions. The next thing that we like to do is a tour. Now, whether that tour is going to be virtual, so if you're in California or Florida or New York and you don't want to spend, the $1,000 in airfare to fly down here, you don't have to. We can do a virtual tour. We've got tour videos that on our YouTube channel that show you around the place. But I like to couple that tour with an interview. And so I'm kind of letting the cat out of the bag here. We do an online assessment. It takes about an hour. It's something that we send to you via email. There's a personality piece to it. There's several modules, but the personality, some cognitive things. Basically, we just want to do an assessment to make sure that this is going to be fitting for you. After the assessment, either before or after, these are kind of interchangeable, but everybody has to have a first-class medical. If you don't have a medical, that's fine. We'll walk you through it. I want to talk to you before you go and get a first-class medical, just to explain some things. Make sure you don't have any questions. Make sure that there's not maybe a medical issue that's going to cause your medical to get deferred or denied. Medicals that get deferred, denied, can take months and months to get back. And so that's why we always say on our marketing material, talk to the admissions advisor first. We don't want to dig into your medical history, but we want to make sure that when you go into that medical that you're equipped to succeed and actually achieve the first-class medical. We exchange some general documents. We're going to need, if you're a U.S. citizen, we'll need, copies of things like passport, stuff like that. If you're a permanent resident, then we need some other documentation. But at the end of the day, it's some very basic, simple stuff that our admissions team walks you through. And we do it all through a student portal. How do I pay for this, right? This is usually, it's oddly enough, this is usually where people, well, it's not odd at all. This is where people start with me on the phone. How long's the program? How much is it? How do I pay for it? So you've got two options. You can self-pay for it if you like, and we have payment plans where you can pay in installments. But a lot of people in the program use Sallie Mae so that you can get a monthly living expense stipend. And that's how a lot of people get through this. So whatever that stipend is, Thrust Flight then takes that amount, divides it by the number of months your program length is, and then we do direct deposits into your personal bank account once a month. I know I'm getting specific here, but a lot of people ask me. It's on a monthly basis, and it goes directly to you, to your bank account. I've seen people that have gotten $500 a month, and I've seen people that have gotten $5,000 a month. You just have to figure out what's right for your lifestyle. Okay, this is important. When you're in ZTA, as is most airline programs, you're not allowed to work and you're not allowed to go to school, all right? And before you ask, well, can't I just drive Uber at night? No, you cannot. So when you're in the airline program, however long the training piece is, whether it is the 5, 7, or 9-month training, you can't work and you can't attend college. So no online university, none of that. You're just doing flight training. Well, why is that? Is it because we're mean? No, just the opposite. We care about you, we care about your training, and it's too distracting for you to be working or going to college. And so all we want you to do is to be focused on flight training. Thrust Flight has housing available to its students. They're in the training program. The housing can be included in your loan. So not only can you wrap the entire program price up in the loan, but you can also wrap up the housing as well as a living expense stipend. So it's kind of one-stop shop for this loan. So you don't need to worry about coming out of pocket. Obviously, you're gonna have to pay the loan back, but you don't have to worry about coming out of pocket to pay for any type of student housing if you need it while you're here. What does a day look like as a student? This is an extremely common question that I get all the time. Nathan, how much am I flying? How much ground schooling am I doing? Am I doing any ground schooling at all? Or am I at home reading books? You know, how does it work? Thrust is so different than most other flight schools in the sense that we spend so much time with you guys. This is so huge. If you don't catch anything, catch this. You cannot teach yourself how to fly. Somebody's got to be there to guide you, and that's what we do. We spend generally 2 to 3 hours a day for Zero Time to Airline with Thrust Flight. It starts on a specific day, usually the middle of the month is when we start our programs. And you're starting with your group. You're doing these group ground schools together. And again, this is really unusual for flight schools. Most flight schools, it's like they shove a box of books in front of you and say, here, take yourself home and read these books and learn how to fly. That's crazy. And that is a huge difference between us and other flight schools. The other piece of it is, in any given day, you're gonna be doing a flight lesson. Obviously, you learn how to fly, right? So we should probably go fly some airplanes. So 2 to 3 hours of flying. One of the things students ask me is, how far out do I see my schedule? Like, am I gonna be able to have a life? The answer is yes. Thrust Flight strives to let you guys know what your schedule is as far in advance as we can. Now, sometimes that's only a couple of days. We like to make it, you know, a week. In general, if we can get a week so you can look and plan. So time off is by request. So every time that you need to take a weekend here or a day there, and you request it. Yeah, I'm in the program, but you know, I've always wanted to backpack across Europe for a month. You mind if I go do that? You're probably gonna get denied. So just keep in mind, during this training time, during the 5, 7, or 9 months, whatever you're in, try and be as dedicated with your time as possible to it. It'll go by fast. Skip the vacation that you were thinking about taking, and let's get this thing done. So again, we can get over the hump, stop paying for flight training, and start getting paid. So let's talk about what's actually included in ZTA, in Zero Time to Airline. Everything, all right? So it's all inclusive, and this is important. Ground training, flight training, fuel, your flight instructor, written test fees, check ride fees, all of your books, materials like headset, pilot supplies, all of it's included. And again, this is important when you're looking at a number, because once you start at an initial number and all of those things that I just mentioned are not included, you can talk about a $25,000 to $35,000 increase if that flight school is not straightforward with you. So when you're shopping around, if you call me, I'm gonna tell you in the first 5 seconds if you want to know exactly how much your program costs. The only thing that we can't cover is aircraft renter's insurance. It's something that's required, it protects you. Renter's insurance is like $400 a year, so it's not a big deal. But otherwise, everything else in ZTA is included. Guys, I'm just about done here. One last thing that I would like to say is when you're shopping around for a flight school, find a flight school that's fun. And that's why it's so important to go and take these tours and to really dig in and do your research. I know it's a little cheesy, but I tell people all the time when I'm talking to them about our program, Attending flight school with Thrust, it's like attending that favorite summer camp that you went to when you were a kid. You know, the one that like really blew your mind, the best one ever. Except instead of it being a week or 2 weeks or a month, however long your summer camp was, mine was a week, it's like 2 years. Again, it's hard work, but it's fun work, and you're doing it at a place that's genuinely exciting. You're doing it at a place that's genuinely interested in you, in a place that's surrounded with people, that's full of people that are passionate about flying, passionate about aviation. We're all sharing the same goals, which is flying. So find a flight school that's fun. That's probably one of the best pieces, even though simplistic and elementary in its nature, one of the best pieces of advice I give you. I say to people every day, listen, if you're spending $100,000 on something, hey, if I'm spending $1,000 on something and I'm not enjoying myself, there's a problem. Find a flight school that you're really gonna make some memories at and have a great experience. But anyways, that's all I have for you today. Do all the things, like the video, leave comments, contact me, our team, if you have any questions. We would love to be able to answer any of your questions. Nobody here is pushy. We're just simply here to educate you on aviation. And if you have any interest in flying with Thrust Flight, then we'd love to chat with you. So for Thrust Flight, I am Nathan. Take care, everybody.